Now that you guys have heard about identifying and the different types of workplace conflict, I'm going to be discussing with you common causes and ways to deal with workplace conflict. Let's first take a deeper look at the common causes. Johnson points out that the four most common causes include poor communication, differences in personalities, differences in values, and competitiveness. Poor communication happens when employees have different communication styles or they fail to communicate in general. This decreases productivity and decreases team morale. Next is differences in personalities. Our personalities shape who we are as individuals. Sometimes this can cause a clash amongst employees, resulting in individuals easily becoming offended. Your next one is differences in values. This goes hand in hand with differences in personalities. Our values and morals shape who we are and again can cause clashes amongst employees, resulting in individuals becoming offended. Lastly is competitiveness. Competitiveness results in sabotage, insults, and hostility, again decreasing work productivity and decreasing teamwork. Now that we've looked at the common causes of workplace conflict, let's take a look at how managers should deal with workplace conflict. Holt points out that there is a step-by-step process managers can follow. First, managers need to get both individuals' side of the story. During this time, the managers should stay neutral. After they've received both sides of the story, the manager needs to do their research and familiarize themselves with each side of the story. After this, the manager needs to set up a meeting with both employees, providing that they're cordial and can handle themselves in a professional manner. Once they have them in a meeting together, the manager needs to recite to the employees both sides of the conflict. During this time, the employees will have the opportunity to add or take away from their story. Once they are both satisfied with the sides of the story, the manager needs to come up with a final resolution. This is when the employees need to determine whether or not they're satisfied. After this, the manager needs to have a written document of what had occurred between the employees and write it down and have both employees sign a copy. Then the manager should send it over to HR and have it on file. So now that we have discussed the ways that managers should handle workplace conflict, let's take a look at how employees should handle workplace conflict. It's important to note that whenever an employee can handle a situation early on with the employee and not have to take it to their manager, that it's better in all instances. So, first, what an employee needs to do is define what acceptable behavior is. This is when an employee gets hired at their place of employment, they know what is expected of them. This is when the employer should ask themselves, is this something that my company would tolerate? Next, the employee needs to face the conflict head on. The quicker that they can deal with the situation with the other employee, the better. After that, they need to understand the motives that were involved in this. This is when you can ask yourself, what is behind this conflict and how can I sort through this conflict? Next, you need to make sure that you pick your battles. You ask yourself, is this conflict really necessary or can I just let this be? And lastly, you need to turn the conflict into a positive. Again, handling it as quickly as possible, agree to disagree, and move on. So now that we've looked at ways that employees should handle workplace conflict, I want to talk about healthy versus unhealthy ways of managing conflict. This is a chart that Siegel has provided, and it's really great. Let's first look at the unhealthy ways to deal with conflict. Unhealthy ways that employees can handle conflict is that they fail to recognize what's important to the other employee. They use resentful reactions, so they're explosive and act in an angry manner. They are withdrawal from love, and that results in rejection and isolation. and they have the inability to recognize what's important and see the other person's side of the story. And lastly, they fear conflict instead of facing conflict. Ways that you could healthfully deal with conflict is that you could compromise to understand the other person's point of view and recognize what matters to them. Next, you use respectful reactions. You're calm, you're non-defensive, and you do not act in a explosive manner. Next, you have the readiness to forgive and forget the individual. You have the ability to seek compromise. And lastly, you face the conflict head on and in a quick manner. Now that you guys have learned about the common causes and ways to deal with workplace conflict, I'm going to let you learn about resolution to conflict. Thank you.